let me just. Okay,
Okay,
so
excellent.
hi everybody and welcome to today's CPD event. This is a talk on fostering critical thinking through questioning with Weir from Atlas Language School in Dublin. This is the fourth in our series of Select Ireland professional development workshops. We thank you for the people who are joining us live here today, but we'd also like to say welcome to the people who are going to be watching this after the event. We will be recording this and sending it out to our mailing list, and we will also be making it available on the Select Ireland YouTube channel for review for yourselves and for your colleagues. So Phil, if I can hand over to you, away you go.
Okay, thank you, Patrick, for introducing me. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Phil Weir. You can see in the logo here, I work for Atlas Language School in Portobello in South Dublin. And I'll be giving a talk today on fostering critical thinking through questioning. So the reason I wanted to focus on this as well is that I actually just coming off a master's and I focused on this in my dissertation. So that's where I gained interest in this. So I'm hoping some of the knowledge I learned can be passed down to other people. So and thank you very much for joining today. Can everyone hear me okay? Yeah, okay, excellent, very good. I do hope you enjoyed this session, and I can give you my email at the end as well if you have any further follow-up questions you would like to ask, okay? Okay, so let me tell you what we're going to look at today. So first, we're going to look at recognizing the types of questions we use in class. So for example, what are the general types of questions? What are critical thinking questions? What constitutes critical thinking questions? How much critical thinking do we actually promote in class? And I'll give you guys an opportunity to analyze questions as well at different stages of this workshop. So this workshop is going to be very hands-on. You're going to be doing a lot of work as well. So I hope you are ready to get working together shortly. Next, I'll look at how we can actually use critical thinking to not just promote critical thinking, which is valuable in all aspects of life, but also to activate language as we are ELT in the ELT sector. Hopefully get round to it. I'll introduce you to thinking about thinking and how that's quite important when promoting critical thinking. And once again, finally, if I really have time, I'll look a little bit at visible thinking routines. These useful routines that could be incorporated into any class in any kind of pedagogical background and how they can actually form classes and can be really useful and engaging as well. So to start, I'm going to show you a picture. And I would like you in the chat to write your observations of what you see in this picture. Okay, so here I have this picture. Some might say it's an accidental Renaissance picture. It's been a very Renaissance picture. So in the chat box here, can you write some observations, please? Write any observations. What can you see? Okay, don't be shy. Looks like police attending a result of a drunken fight. Okay, that's very clear. Very good. Thank you, Kevin. And any other observations, guys? Anyone else writing anything? Any other observations? It can be just words. It can be a few words. Looks like Galway at the weekend. And Air Square, I'm sure, outside the Supermax. It's notorious. Not that I've been there that often and once or twice in my life, but yeah. Lots of onlookers. Excellent. Yeah, lots of people onlooking. Okay. So once again, this is a simple picture. And now I'm going to introduce you to some questions that you could get your students to discuss about this picture. Okay. So here we go. Okay, so here we have some questions you could ask your learners about this picture. So picture A. What different items of clothing can you see? Can anyone tell me? You can use you can speak if you want. You don't have to use the box. You can chat box. You can speak, please. Okay, or I'll nominate somebody. Andre Panini. Can you tell me what different items of clothing can you see, please? Andre, are you there? Okay, Andre seems to be absent. Alfrede, are you there? Okay, Andre, a man wearing a blue suit. Okay, thank you for that. Any other clothes we can see, Alfrede?
A coat, a man in front of a car wear a grey coat, yes.
Green coats, yeah. Excellent. And what are the police wearing?
What do you mean? I don't understand.
What are the police wearing?
Yellow jackets.
Yeah, or we could. Their uniform.
Uniform.
Their uniform. Excellent. Okay. As Kevin said there. Thanks, Kevin. Thank you, Elfriede. Asli, are you there? Asli. Asli, no. Hello. Okay. Claire Cronin, are you there? We've got a lot of passive learners today. Claire, are you there? Okay. Etna, are you there? Hi, Etna.
Yes.
Hi, Etna. How you doing?
Hi.
Etna, can you tell me what is happening to the man on the ground?
Well, either they're trying to help him or control him.
Okay. Yeah. And what is the police action? Would you say?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
What is the police action? What is the police doing? The policemen.
Well, either trying to help him or control him, I think. They're bent over him anyway, yes.
Yeah. Could you give me some possibly arrest him, exactly. Very good. And Edna, could you give me one sentence caption you would write for this?
Sorry, there's just background noise here.
That's fine.
Could you say it again? Sorry.
Could you give me one sentence caption you would write for this? One sentence.
Yeah, I like Patrick's caption actually, but let's leave Galway out of it. I don't know. Temple Bar on a Saturday night.
Temple Bar on a Saturday night. Thanks for that, Edna. Let me see, Kevin. Where do you think they are?
Looks like they're outside some sort of shopping area because you can see a Superdry in the background. So I don't know, maybe outside a pub close to a shopping area, city centre.
Yeah, and where in the world do you think they are?
Probably, if I had to guess, looking at the car number plates and the police jackets, UK.
Yeah, somewhere in the UK. Somewhere. Do we know for sure?
Can't see anything that would indicate.
Exactly, but we can, once again, we can use some guesses to get there as well. Thanks for that, Kevin. What might the man in the white coat be thinking? What might he be thinking? Patrick, what do you think? What's this man here thinking?
The man on the far side, is it?
Yeah.
He's probably thinking, glad it's not me.
Yeah, or what the hell is going on?
What the hell is going on, yeah.
Yeah. And Patrick, I'll ask you the last question. Do you think binge drinking is harmful to society?
Definitely, yeah.
And why?
Not just harmful to the people who binge drink, but sometimes harmful to the people around when something like this happens, that you get in the middle of an argument that has nothing to do with you.
Excellent. Thanks very much for that answer, Patrick. Okay, guys, so each of these questions was activating what could be all parts of critical thinking skills. So each question had a function, okay? Let me show you some of these functions. Okay, just gonna go back on my screen. Okay, out of this. So I'm going to send this to you in the chat if I can get this down. Okay, stop. Okay, so we have different functions that these questions could possibly ask you, okay? So one function could be to apply your knowledge and understanding. Another one would be to comprehend the situation. Another one would be to evaluate the situation. Another one is to make inferences. Another to recognize and recall information. And lastly, to analyze the situation. So I'm going to put you into small groups, or Patrick, if you can set up small groups. But first, I'm going to give you a handout that I want you to download. So bear with me 1 second. Okay, I've sent a handout in the chat. Can everybody download that, okay? One second. Okay, has everyone downloaded that, okay?
Just doing that now.
Okay. Actually, I'm thinking, as we're such a small group, I think we can just all do this together. What do you think, Patrick?
Yeah.
So instead of us in one breakout room as intended. Okay, let's do it all together, guys.
So you want to leave everybody here?
I'll leave everybody here. Yeah, I think there's no point, as we're a small group anyway. So let's just do it all here together.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So looking at these questions, I want to make sure I have my questions here as well. A, can anyone tell me what function does this question have? What function? What different items of clothing can you see? Anybody? What do you think?
I'd say probably
What is it?
apply your knowledge and understanding, since you have to recall, previous learned vocabulary to describe the situation.
So yeah, but what's the first thing you have to do first then in this question, Andre?
To talk about what different items of clothing we can see. Yeah, so the first thing.
What are we doing? We are
just describing it, right?
Yeah. So which of these would be that?
Analyzing the situation, maybe?
I would say it's recognizing.
Oh, recognizing
information.
All right. Okay. I get that.
See, because you did say recall what you see there.
Yeah, so true.
It would be too. You're using the language for the. We're recognizing. We're looking at the picture, and we're using our recognizing, and then we're calling. We're retrieving the knowledge from our brains. Okay. Okay. So the next question: what is happening to the man on the ground? What are we doing there? So we're looking at the man on the ground, and we have to, which of these functions are we doing here? Can anyone tell me? Now, what do you think? So you're on mute. You're on mute. Okay, anybody?
Sorry, I'm back now. I couldn't unmute myself.
That's okay. That's okay.
Sorry. evaluating the situation. What
But so is it quite clear what's happening though?
I think so.
From the evidence we can see?
Well,
Yeah.
I suppose we're making inferences, yeah. If we do that.
Yeah, but like we have the police, and the police job is to maybe arrest them. So I would be going for we're comprehending the situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, because once again, we're using our knowledge. We can see the police, we can see what's happening here, and we're comprehending the situation. Okay, once again, with these, there can be fine lines between what is one thing and what is another, but that's the one I was trying to go for with this question, which I'll show you a bit more about now shortly. So if I'm writing one sentence, what one sentence caption could you write? Which question would that refer to? Function.
Sorry, is that still me?
Which one? Once again, we're looking at the whole picture. We're summarizing in one question. What are we doing? Or in one answer, should I say?
Are we analyzing the situation?
So I would say analyzing is a different one. So
Okay.
I would say analyzing is actually, where do you think they are?
Okay.
Because we need to, like an inspector, you know, we need to like look at all the clues to analyze the situation. So with this one, write one sentence, we're applying our knowledge and understanding.
Okay.
A little bit of application there, a little bit of application. So moving on to question E, what might the man in the white coat be thinking? Which one thinks that is? So are we evaluating or are we making inferences?
Inferences.
Yeah, so we're making inferences.
We're also inferring it's a man, right? Because that person is wearing heels, I think.
Yeah, I thought that too. I was wondering if
And once again, like it's very hard to see. It could be a man, and we're making many inferences there. I would absolutely agree.
And what's wrong with heels?
And then the
Absolutely nothing. I'm wearing them right now.
Exactly, me too. It's Friday night, come on.
Right.
And the last one then is, of course, we are evaluating the situation. Okay, so these type of functions can actually refer to what we call critical thinking skills, and what we can put into also two categories, which are higher order and lower order thinking skills. So lower order thinking skills, they can be where we remember, understand, and apply. So in order to reach the higher level of thinking skills, the lower order of thinking skills must be achieved first, as we did here with the questions. We ask questions to look at, recall information, then before we have to start analyzing and then making our inferences afterwards. So the higher order thinking skills distinguishes critical thinking skills from lower order learning outcomes, such as those attained by rote memorization. For example, synthesizing, analyzing, reasoning, comprehending, application, and evaluation. So simply put, low order would be recall, recognizing, comprehending, and then higher order is going into applying knowledge, analyzing, inferring, evaluating, and creating. So I'm going to show you some information about these questions and how much of them we actually do in the class. So I'm going to play this again. And I'll be 1 second. So I've got some facts that were taken from a research actually that was done in 2000, but I found it was still very relevant to this day. Thinking about the questions we use in class, what percentage of them are recall, essentially lower order thinking skill questions? What percentage do you think are procedural? And what percentage do you think we actually require students to think? So what do you think are recall? How much percent are recall, do you think? Right in the text box? How much? How many?
I'd say a lot.
What percent? Can you give me a ballpark figure?
maybe 70%.
70%? Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay. Okay, guys, and what about procedural? How much procedural? So I'm going to use, Patrick mentioned 70% there. So that's his guesstimation, let's say. What procedural? What do you think? So giving instructions.
I'd say 20.
20, okay. And then I'm assuming for good maths, you're considering 10%, Patrick, is it?
I'm going to say 10, yeah.
10, okay, excellent. So I'm going to show you the percentages that were taken from this study. So this is a really good, actually interesting study that I'll share with you at the end of class, or the end of the session, so I say. Okay, so you were not far off, Patrick, actually. So of the questions we use in class, 60% are requiring our students to recall information.
Yeah.
20% are procedural, and 20% are requiring students to think.
Yeah.
So can you tell me what kind of implication could that have in the class, or what's the relevance of that to our classes in critical thinking?
Well, I think for me anyway, I think a lot of what we observe when we observe teachers is that they're not getting students to critically think about the information. They're just getting students to look at information and see how much of it they can remember, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they understand it in context or that they know how to use it or that they've processed it anyway. It's just a sort of a look, can you remember this? Whereas I think it should be more about requiring students to think, should be the 60%, rather than the requiring students to recall should be the 60%.
Why do you think we ask students to recall more than actually to think? What do you think that is?
Well, I think it's an easy win in some ways, you know, when we're teaching, because we require feedback, or we require the idea of feedback, because we learn on courses, and when we're teaching that as long as the students are giving us feedback, something must be going in. So we do this sort of required recall as an automatic way of including our students in the process and getting feedback on what we've presented, but that doesn't necessarily prove anything in terms of have the students understood the language, or are they following at all in what we said? I think
exactly that. I'd also blame course books as well. It's all about like kind of lower ends, you know. I don't think course books, like, it's a gap filling, all that kind of stuff is recalling the information but not actually applying it and creating it and evaluating it enough. And it's easier, isn't it, to just ask recall?
Absolutely.
My personal distaste for Kahoot, you know, because it's about recalling, you know, it's fun, it's engaging, but what are they actually doing with it? I very little. So looking at questions a bit more in the types of questions we use, hopefully my computer will work now. Okay. So we can also break down question types into managerial, rhetorical, closed, and open. So let's look at how we can break these down. So managerial can be to keep the class operations moving. So once again, the procedural, the instruction questions. Rhetorical, to emphasize a point, to enforce an idea or statements. Closed, to check the retention of previously learned information, to focus thinking on a particular point or commonly held set of ideas. And also open, to promote discussion or student interaction, to stimulate student thinking, to allow freedom to hypothesize, speculate, share ideas about possible activities, etc. So which of these do you think would be more about critical thinking? Which one is more focused on critical thinking?
Definitely open questions, right?
Yeah. And can you give me an example of an open question?
How would you describe the situation?
So describe, that would be a good question. Can you describe?
Predict, I suppose. Predict what happens next.
Predict, And what about closed?
What was the man wearing, or specific information about what they've seen, how many cars were in the picture, or something like that. Like a memory test.
Yeah, and also like they can be yes/no questions are typically closed questions as well, you know.
Yeah.
But sometimes we can be asking what we think is an open question is actually quite a closed question because the answers are few. So once again, just because it has a what and there are some options doesn't mean that it's actually really truly an open question.
Yeah.
So I've got some questions here, and 1 second. Okay. So I got some questions here. So I want you to look at these questions and think which of the following questions are open or closed. What is the function of each question? And which of the following questions requires us to think more critically? So Patrick, can you do the first one for me? Can you look at this and tell me if you think it's an open or closed question? And what's the function? And does it require learners to think more critically or not?
Yeah, I'm not sure that it requires them to learn critically because they're just looking at something in front of them and they're just describing what they see. They don't have to work it out or to communicate an opinion with each other. It's just like, I can see this, I can't see this. The purpose of the question might be, you know, if a teacher was focusing on vocabulary or a specific item that they wanted to focus on or a particular item of language. So it might just be looking at specific vocabulary in terms of why you would be doing that question. Or maybe you want to do.
So, but if you had to use one of these words here, Patrick, recall, recognize, comprehend.
Maybe recognize.
Yeah, good. Yeah, recognize, good.
Yeah, and I don't think that question gets students critically thinking.
No. Yeah, you're correct. So I have recognize here as well, and it's closed as few answers are possible. Yeah, excellent.
And they could also be recall in there if you'd pre-taught vocabulary and you were getting them to see if they could remember some individual words that you had given them before and see if they recognize them in this, but you wouldn't be they would be critically thinking. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Once again, and it moves across. Sorry, there should be application after comprehend, guys. So just consider that. Etna, can you tell me about the next question? Is it open or closed? What's the function? And
compare living in Ireland with living in your country.
Yeah.
Well, it's open because it depends on what they're going to come up with and what country they come from. And they have to analyze, I suppose, aspects of living here and compare it to their own. So they're doing that. So they're making a judgment as well.
Yeah.
So evaluating.
Yeah.
And they're recognizing differences, similarities. They're analyzing those.
Yeah.
Depending on how long they've been away, they're recalling.
Yeah, excellent. So includes many as well.
Yeah.
And do you think it requires students to think more critically or not?
I do, because they're going to have to evaluate where they're at now and where they would, or what they see as being different and whether it's better or not as good.
Exactly.
So yes, I do.
Yeah, I think you're right. That
if they're working with a partner, they're going to have to also accept the other point of view.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think you're damn right. It requires so many critical thinking skills, or of the higher and lower order thinking skills. Andre, can you do the next one for me, please? Is it open or closed?
Yeah.
What's the function?
The 3 vegetables, right? that are purple. So I'd say that that's probably closed, unless they get really creative with it. But there are only so many.
Can you tell me 3 vegetables that are purple?
Well, eggplant, but you call it aubergine, right? So no. Onions, and gosh, I'm blanking on a third one. So aubergine, onion.
Peppers can be purple as well.
Peppers, true. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
The function that I would say that's probably recall, right? They have to recall information.
Yeah.
And I would not say this leads to critical thinking very much.
No, very little. But once again, it's what you do with it afterwards that could be considered critical thinking.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Andre. Kevin, are you there?
I am indeed. 1 second.
That's great, Kevin. If you can give me D, please.
1 second here now. I have to make this a little bit bigger. Yes. This is, can you think of a suitable time for reading? I think that's a real open question, I suppose. Yes.
Yeah. And what function would you say?
I suppose, let's say, can you think of a suitable title for the reading? The function, when you say the function, what do you mean exactly?
So the function, like we looked at this at the beginning of the session.
Oh, sorry, yeah, because I missed that. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So critical thinking can be based on higher order or lower order and higher order thinking skills. So recall, recognize, comprehends. That'll be low order. There's one missing here. Should be application, analyze, infer, and evaluate. So which of these functions do you think would match title? I
suppose I'm thinking maybe of analyzing, because it looks like something associated with just reading. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. It was actually the correct one was application.
Application
Okay, can be about summarizing. Yeah, in this case, exactly. So it'd be more higher or lower order. So actually, sorry, you were not here.
Yes, it would be in the middle, would it? Okay.
Yeah. So we're in the middle.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Claire, are you there, Claire? No. Okay. Back to Patrick. Can you tell me about E, please?
Why do people do bad things? Well, I guess there would be some critical thinking there in terms of them working out why something is happening. So it's an open question. And in terms of the function of the question, why do you do bad things? Are they analyzing a situation?
It could be analyzing, yeah. Well, no, sorry, this is a general question. It's why do people do bad things in general?
In general. The other one was analysis, infer, and evaluation. Well, I guess they could be recalling information if it was something that they'd already experienced before. Are they they're not really evaluating the situation.
Yeah, but they're evaluating society.
Evaluating society, I guess. Yeah.
So, and also,
they're in, yeah,
I'm making inferences as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you
had inference and evaluation as a combination, right? It was possible to have.
Well, it's kind of like it's I don't want to show the pyramid because it's been done to death. But it's kind of like it's on the way to create as far as higher thinking skills go. So just to recap on what I was getting at with these, sometimes we can use words that can actually be in both categories of a closed or a open question. So we have typical recall question words, for example, who, what, where, when, name something. Once again, we're just asking to recall. So once again, what levels would these be typically used when teaching English?
For the recall questions, you could use those at low levels.
For levels, yeah.
So, right up until,
exactly. We can use them for all, but once again, I think we can get too used to using these questions when we're teaching higher level classes.
Yeah.
So, and then with critical thinking question words, we have discuss, explain, evaluate, compare, interpret, rate, hypothesize. Would these require students to know more or less language?
More.
More.
Yeah. They have to be a bit more able.
Yeah. Does this mean that we shouldn't use these questions with lower levels?
No, I definitely think you could use them at lower levels. You just change what your expectation is on the answer that you're going to get.
Exactly. And then we have question words that can still be closed. Compare, why, explain, why did Jack close the door? If the answer is there, that's a closed question. And just be careful about vague question words like what about, it's still seen as a vague question words, which could be difficult for learners. So you can find these and more from Bloom's taxonomy, which I'm sure everyone has come across in relation to higher and lower thinking skills. There's a good digital taxonomy which is probably more relevant to our learners about. And I think we have all these different types of question words, as you can see, you know. So once again, we can take these and actually create outcomes in our classes for these, depending on the level of what we want our learners to do. Of course, we could use some outcomes for the starter class, you know, getting learners to recall information, read something, identify. But then as we go up to the higher order, we can still get them to apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So not just use them to ask questions in class, but also to set outcomes for our lessons.
Yeah.
Okay. So once again, I'm just going to share this at the end of class before I finish. So we've got about 20 minutes, do we?
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe about 10 minutes, because we were running a bit on. So yeah, 10 minutes.
10 minutes, yeah. That's fine. Okay, so we looked at the different variety of questions we can use to activate critical thinking. But so we can also activate language through critical thinking. So for example, what different items of clothing can you see? The language that can be activated through this question is, of course, items of clothing. What other language could be activated through what's happening to the man on the ground? So this is referring back to the crime scene we saw. What language could be referred back to that? Sorry, Kevin, you were not here, so you missed that picture.
Yeah, I missed that picture.
That's fine.
But I guess
just to show you briefly.
Yeah.
I'll show you briefly now, Kevin. So this was a scene, Kevin. This was a scene we based it on the start.
Okay.
So yeah, it was this very accidental Renaissance picture. See?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I suppose the language you'd be generating here would be, it could be medical, it could be crime. There's all these different sets.
Crime. We got crime language, yeah.
Crime language, yes. Maybe, yes, injury, because I'm not quite sure what's happening there in the picture. It could also be just, you know, cityscape vocabulary and things like that. Yeah, there's a few different lexicons, I suppose, you could touch on. Yes, what's happening there?
Yeah. And as we move into these questions here, guys, what kind of grammar would you think could be extracted from these? For example, what is happening? We're requiring the learners to use
present perfect, or present continuous all the time. I forgot all my tenses.
Kevin, you're not a teacher anymore.
Well done, Kevin. I'm glad that you got that question, not me.
And why do we use the present continuous?
Because it's happening right at the moment. It's a prerequisite for describing a picture always.
Describing a picture, excellent. Yeah. And then what about what might the man in the white coat be thinking?
Oh, that's speculative language, isn't it?
Speculative language, yeah, for example. Okay. So I want to show you what I had suggested. Okay. I must apologize, guys. My internet has not been the great best today. Okay, so for example, what different items of clothing can you see? Items of clothing, of course. What is happening to the man? Present continuous, crime language. Write one sentence caption. What one sentence caption would you write? Passives, man arrested for our antisocial behavior. And because we're passives with crime, they generally go together. Where do you think they are? Language of deduction, perhaps, maybe, could. What might the man in the white coat be thinking? Language of speculation, I guess, I suppose, probably. Do you think binge drinking is harmful to society? Why or why not? Cause and effect, due to, owing to, therefore. So once again, with this, we can preempt what language that we want to activate in our learners. Okay, so I'm just going to give you one chance to apply what we've learned today. I have this picture here. Can anyone tell me anything to recognize or recall from this picture? Anyone recognize anyone famous? She is a president who has just stepped down as of this year, last year. Who is she? Angela Merkel.
Oh,
Yeah. It was Angela Merkel, I think, in the late 80s, early 90s.
Okay, it's an old picture. Is it?
An old picture, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. She's speaking to some, she's having a whiskey, and she's speaking to some sailors on the border with Denmark there. So, yeah,
wow.
I saw a beautiful picture, isn't it? Yeah, good old Angela. So what kind of question could you ask that recognizes or recalls information to your learners?
What do you think they're talking about?
Okay, what would that, what kind of function would that be?
I'm sorry, I joined like 5 minutes ago. I forgot about this, so I really don't know what I'm talking about.
That's okay. So
Sorry.
the question, what do you think they're talking about, would be a good inference question. So that would be an inference question.
Okay.
But what would be a good recall question? So we're looking at the information. It's our low order thinking skill. It could be, what's their job? You know, what's your job? Because they are, what's their job?
Sailors, isn't it?
Sailors, yeah, they're sailors, yeah. Once again, you have to look at their clothing to recall that. Okay, and to comprehend the situation, can anyone give me a question?
Where are they?
Where are they? Yeah, where are they? Yeah, once again, we have to look, or what are they doing? You know, once again, we have to maybe look a bit better to comprehend what's going on. So to apply, once again, summarizing, describe the picture in one sentence, for example, is a good summarizing. Can anyone summarize the picture in one sentence?
Downtime.
Downtime. Okay, I like that one.
There are 4 men and a woman talking.
Yeah, 4 men. Okay, so you might want them to get summarize everyone deep in conversation, you know, something like that to really summarizes it a bit more detail. To analyze a situation.
It doesn't look as if they're all listening to her.
No.
Yeah.
One is looking out the window. One is looking at, it can't be a phone, but he's looking down. The guy who's smoking is looking away.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually think he's actually telling a story because his hand's like that, you know?
Yeah.
And he's telling a story. Angela is listening to him with a whiskey. He's like, looks like he's on a mobile phone, but mobile phone didn't exist then. And he's like, whatever.
Someone else is looking out the window.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. What time of day do you think it is?
Evening.
Evening. No, what makes you think that?
Or morning, just the way the light is slanted.
Exactly. And what you need to do there, apply, analyze, or infer?
That's apply.
Apply. Yeah, well, apply into analyze. Once again, they all kind of blend into each other.
Okay.
These are the lower and higher thinking skills. And can you give me a question that you could ask your students to evaluate?
What might they be talking? What might they be talking about?
Yeah, that would be more of an inference.
Okay.
But to evaluate, you could like look at something more globally, like should women be sailors? You know, something like that. Or is it common to find women in jobs like sailers? You know.
Is storytelling a dying art or something like that?
There you go. That's a really good one as well. Okay, guys, so I'm going to cut it there. I had a few more things to show you, but we're running out of time. So just coming back to what we did at the beginning, we looked at some pictures. We looked at a picture and we developed questions around one single picture, and each one was activating what we can call critical thinking questions or functions, as we had here. Then we looked at the type of questions we used, and that's critical thinking, we don't actually do enough of it in the classroom based on this research in particular. We are too focused on recall when we should be trying to really activate critical thinking in the classroom. And we can really do this if we really think about the questions we use, if they're open, if they're closed, and just to really push and challenge our students more. So just to finish up, I'm going to give you a few, I'm going to copy these. These are a few recommended reading. I didn't get around to assessing metacognitive awareness. Getting your students to think about thinking can be really useful. I'm going to share this link as well. Can I share these with you, Patrick, and you can share these at the end?
Absolutely.
All right, I can share my slides with you and you can share them.
Yeah, absolutely. If you put them on the slides, and I'll
That's
forward
okay.
them to everybody afterwards.
Yeah. Excellent. So that research article, How to Ask the Right Questions, is a short article. It's amazing on reflection on the questions we use in class. There's an amazing book called Making Thinking Visible, which creates lessons around, it's actually was based on children's education, but it's really applicable to the ELT sector as well, and how to get people to think more along from higher order to low order. And then there's a link there for the Bloom's digital taxonomy in verbs, so a modernized version of that. And where I got these pictures, on Reddit, there's an accidental renaissance part where you can find really engaging pictures for learners to talk about. So any final questions, guys, about what you've seen today?
That's great, Phil. Thank you. I think the critical thinking questions are actually really hard to do. You know,
Yeah.
It takes work. It takes practice.
Yeah. And one second. I have some cheat sheets, you know,
Yes.
like that I've just taken off the internet. I have just some cheat sheets I have.
Yeah.
You know, questions like who, where, what, when, you know, things like that. Just little cheat sheets. Write them down a little lesson plan of where you might actually use them. Just trying to like move away from recall and recognizing and getting our students to actually think more about critical thinking, which would be really useful when they go to college.
Absolutely.
You know, I think that's especially useful.
Yeah. You can see why teachers fall into the trap of just checking meaning, because, you know, getting the questions for critical thinking and providing students with the space to process the information before they produce a result means that it is more challenging for the teacher to get into the critical thinking mode, but so much more valuable for the students. Yeah,
exactly.
It seems to me as well that you can apply a lot of this to the lower levels as well, but obviously the higher levels, they have the vocabulary to evaluate more eloquently and more accurately. But I think the lower levels as well, you know, obviously they have critical thinking skills. They're still adults a lot of the time, but you know, it could be also, you know, is applicable to lower levels too. It's actually interesting.
Yeah, and just to not be afraid of these words like critical thinking. We don't even have to use the words critical thinking. We can just ask the questions, you know, and those visible thinking routines, which I'll show you just a quick thing here on this slide here. I'll just do this very quickly, Patrick. So this book, Making Thinking Visible, I found on Scribd, if anyone has used Scribd.
Yeah.
If you can, so once again, you have these routines: see, think, wonder, zoom in, think, puzzle, explore. And this is what they do, what the thinking moves are: describe, interpret, wonder, and what they're good for. Yeah.
That's good.
And it's really good for productive activities, including critical thinking with the use of language. There's a lot of work more done that could be done to really incorporate that, but there's some really good things that could really change your classroom by looking at this book about making thinking visible.
Great.
Visible thinking routines.
Phil, listen, thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thanks for that.
I want to thank everybody who came along today and participated. We also want to thank the people who are going to be watching this, not live, but online on the Select Ireland YouTube channel. We hope that you will find the information useful for your classes. Phil is going to forward a copy of the slides to me, so I will have a copy of them available. You can email me. The email address is info@select-ireland.com, or you can check on the Select Ireland website for links to all of these activities. The Select Ireland website is www.select-ireland.com. Our next training event will be held in May, and we look forward to welcoming you and the people who are watching this after the fact, perhaps you also live in May. Phil, thanks for your participation today.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for coming.
Look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks,
Yes.
everyone.
Bye-bye.